Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show. We're going to be discussing some things which are important to you and to the Muslim Ummah at large. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we're going to get started. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got Donald Trump. He's in the Middle East. Just yesterday, he was in Saudi Arabia, and today he is in Qatar. Tomorrow, he'll be in the United Arab Emirates. So there's been a lot of pomp, a lot of glitter. We're going to just try to kind of update you in terms of some of that. His first trip was to Saudi Arabia. He spoke at a U.S. Saudi investment forum. It was a big, lavish ceremony. Well, they even went so far for his trip, and he only stayed there for about a day. I don't think he stayed there for more than 24, 36 hours. But they even got a mobile McDonald's unit. I'm not kidding here. I want to make this crystal clear. Now, we know that you're supposed to treat the guest well, but you got to understand who this guest is. This guest, Donald Trump, is the one who continues to authorize billions of dollars to go to Israeli forces so that they can continue their genocide in Gaza and their land grab, also known as ethnic cleansing, in the West Bank. Now, please, everybody, don't fall for this stuff about, oh, there's a big beef between Netanyahu and between Donald Trump and so on and so forth. The reality of the situation is that we never even heard of all of this discord and stuff like that between Trump and Netanyahu before a week before he came to the Middle East. Now, there were plenty of goodies in the Middle East for Donald Trump, and we're going to get started on that in just a minute. The Saudis pledged investments of $600 billion over the course of 4 years. 142 billion of those dollars goes to the what? The defense sector. Yes, you guessed it, brothers and sisters. The ones who are funding these types of exploits that you're seeing in the Gaza Strip are the Muslims. The Muslim rulers are funding them and spending huge amounts of money on the most advanced weaponry and so on and so forth. But the joke is on them. I got to be honest with you guys here. The reality of the situation is that if you look at the war between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, the Houthis were understood to be just a bunch of mountain boys. They had Kalashnikovs, they had RPGs, and eventually Iran gave them some missiles in which to fire, along with drones. The Saudis had the most modern warplanes, F-16s, F-35s, all of the surveillance equipment and so on and so forth, and they were unable to defeat the Houthis. That's the reality of the situation. They call that checkbook militaries. They've got all this advanced weaponry, but they can't do anything with it. That's just Saudi Arabia. 142 billion out of the $600 billion goes to defense contractors in America. You just can't make this stuff up. Oh yeah, by the way, they do mention Palestine from time to time. Next topic goes on to Qatar. The Qataris gave Donald Trump as a gift for a $400 million plane. Donald Trump graciously accepted it. $400 million plane went to Donald Trump as a gift. You've got to be kidding me. This is the same man, again, who's funding a genocide which has killed tens of thousands of children, has displaced more than 90% of the population, destroyed Gaza. There's a famine going on in Gaza, and there is a big siege so that food, medicine, and much needed commodities cannot get in or out. And it happened because of Donald Trump, and this is the guest that they gave a $400 million plane to. I digress. Oh, wait a minute. It wasn't just $400 million. They also pledged to invest $1.2 trillion. Trillion dollars. These are the Qataris. That doesn't include the Saudis with their $600 billion. That's we're now talking about the Qataris here. Okay, then we're going to go on to Abu Dhabi, and we're going to the United Arab Emirates. They've pledged to donate, I'm not sorry, not donate, but to invest $1.4 trillion. Trillion dollars. Wow. When you look at all of this, all these resources that they have, but nobody's been able to do anything for the genocide taking place in Gaza other than to say there's no military answer to this problem that's happening in Gaza. It's so unfortunate that these are the extent of the efforts that our Muslim leaders can give to us. Moving and speaking of Muslim leaders, we also want to talk about what took place here. This was a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ahmed al-Shara, also known as Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani. Now, everybody knows, we did a program just last night, and everybody should hear by now, know that the United States President said that he's going to order the sanctions be lifted from Syria. And there's some speculation whether it's going to be a total lift, partial lift, or whatever the deal is. But one thing did happen. The two did finally meet. And, well, here was the result according to Caroline Leavitt, who is the U.S. press secretary for the White House. And this is what she said that the U.S. president urged Ahmed al-Shara to do. And it is as follows. Number one, sign on to the Abraham Accords with Israel. Number two, tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. Number three, deport Palestinian terrorists. Number four, help the United States to prevent the resurgence of ISIS. Number five, assume responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northeast Syria. Let's talk, brothers and sisters. Let's see what we got here. All right, let's take the first one. Oh, I forgot to tell everybody something. Firstly, I need your help. Before we get into this, I want to show you something. Please, brothers and sisters, bear with me because we really, really need your help here. Okay, we are in the process of doing a project. This project is called Voices of Truth. And this project of Voices of Truth, we are going throughout the country, filming people who were affected by the Assad regime, whether they were ex-prisoners or family members of prisoners who never returned home. And sometimes we're doing interviews with people who actually did some of the crimes. We are documenting the crimes that the Assad family committed on the Syrian people, and we're giving a voice to people who never ever thought that they would have a voice. Why? Because we want it to be documented so that if ever anybody wants to know what happened in Syria, it's there. And in addition to that, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And we want to make sure that we do not repeat the history that took place in Syria. Please do help us out. Visit our crowdfunding page at Medina.com. That's Medina.com/voices of truth. Medina.com/voices of truth. I am heading this project. Please do visit our crowdfunding page and take a look. Okay, let's get back to where we were and let's look at your questions here. Oh, I'm sorry, before we do get to the questions. Okay, all right, let's get back to here. Issue number one, sign on to the Abraham Accords with Israel. Signing the Abraham Accords is tantamount to, because the Abraham Accords implicitly gives legitimacy and recognition to Israel. When you recognize Israel, what you're doing is you're recognizing that the lands that they stole from the Palestinians is their sovereign territory. That is a red line for the Ummah that cannot be crossed. So I urge Ahmed al-Shara not to sign on to the Abraham Accords with Israel. Let's talk about number two. Tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. Well, according to Donald Trump, who do you think is a terrorist? You guessed it. A terrorist for him is anybody who wants to see Islam grow and to be ruled by Islamic law. That's his definition of a terrorist. Now, they may be a foreign terrorist, but don't think that that designation is going to be limited only to foreigners. It's going to then bleed over into anybody who wants Islam and to see Islam grow. That also is a red line. Go to number 3. Deport Palestinian terrorists. Well, what do you think he thinks a Palestinian terrorist is? Well, I would say that he thinks that anybody who aids and abets in any way, shape, form, or fashion the resistance against the Israeli occupation and genocide that's taking place there are known as terrorists. So that, again, is another red line because that means everybody. Number 4, help the United States to prevent the resurgence of ISIS. Interesting point. All of these intelligence agencies are always talking about ISIS, 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 ISIS. The reality of the situation is that I live here and I understand what the situation is. ISIS does not have a presence like that. That's the first thing. Second thing, any Muslim government by default is going to resist any type of terrorist organization like ISIS from growing. That should happen organically. It shouldn't be something that the United States actually has to participate in, particularly because this is not America. Okay, now, when we're talking about prevent the resurgence of ISIS, or I should say help the United States, what that means is that, okay, Syrians, you guys are going to be the battering ram and go where we tell you to go. You bring back the intelligence. Once you've got the intelligence, you give it to us. That goes to Washington. And from Washington, where does it go? You guessed it, Tel Aviv. So it turns out, see, because the U.S. Forces and the Israeli forces are one. They're not two, they're one. And that would be tantamount of inviting and allowing U.S. Special Forces and Mossad to operate freely inside of the new Syria. I think that that's a red line and shouldn't be crossed. Number 5, to assume responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northeast Syria. Brothers and sisters, I have to make it clear to you, there are thousands of men, women, children in those detention camps who've never been charged with a crime. I'm going to say it again. There are thousands of men, women, and children who are in those detention camps and who've never been charged with a crime. So many of those sisters who were arrested, they were just following their husbands. There's no proof that they committed any crime. There's no proof that they had blood on their hands. There's no proof that they encouraged anybody's killing. Their crime was that they were making food and taking care of their children and taking care of their husbands at home domestically. And they ended up in the prisons under the current, those who are currently manning the prisons are the Kurdish militia forces. So assume responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northeast Syria. I would hope that he would take over those prisons and free anyone and everyone that has no charge against them. It's enough. They've been there 6 years, 5 years, 7 years, some of the people, and there is no course for them to free themselves because there are no trials. That's the issue. They're just held indefinitely. But somehow I got the feeling that that's not what Donald Trump meant. He probably meant just to keep them there until they all die or disease takes them or what have you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, brothers and sisters, we're going to look and see what we're talking about here and see. Okay, well, we've got one thing here. Ahmed says, Salam Akhi Bilal, I heard Jolani was supposed to address the nation at 10 p.m. Can you provide feedback about the address? I have not seen anything as of yet, but if I do, then we will comment on it, inshallah ta'ala. It might be tomorrow if we don't get some information until we finish this particular broadcast. Okay, Let us continue. Okay, next, we've got Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal. With the Gulf making all these investments in America totaling over $2 trillion, how come a fraction of that can't be invested to develop other Muslim nations? I'll tell you why. You see, I want to show you something. These Gulf Arab countries militarily are extremely weak. In spite of the fact that they've used hundreds of billions of dollars to buy the best weapons, they're extremely weak. This is the first thing. The second thing, you know something that's interesting, a lot of people don't know. When the US sells their weapons, it comes with strings attached. Did you notice something? With the fleet of F-16 planes that Pakistan bought at $279 million a pop, why was it that they used Chinese J-10 jets to shoot down Indian planes during their most recent skirmishes? Does anybody know the answer to that? I'll tell you why. Because there are end-user agreements with the US in that the planes that they gave to them have to be used for domestic warfare in terms of protecting the Pakistani homeland, and we're just using Pakistan right now. It's the same thing for the Gulf countries. But it's primarily to be used for what? Counterterrorism. Bam. There it is right there, brothers and sisters. It is supposed to be used for counterterrorism, or saying it in a different way, it's only supposed to be used for the Muslims. So Pakistan couldn't even use the big time $279 million planes that they bought from the United States of America, because literally the planes have to be stored at a certain air base in Pakistan, and there are US personnel at that base to monitor the use of the planes. And if there's any misuse of the plane, the United States has software where they can actually lock the computers of the planes. Get that. $279 million. And then we have $142 billion that Mohammed bin Salman is forking over. We've got the Qataris who are spending $1.96 billion on MQ-9B Reaper drones, which they use to pick off the Mujahideen in Syria. They want to buy a fleet of them at $30 million a pop. Brothers and sisters, they can't, if there was ever a conflict and the Israelis became aggressive, they can't even use it against them without America's permission, and you know they're not going to get it. And if they decide to go ahead and do it anyway, then that would cut them off. Not only would they lock the plane systems, then after that they would stop giving them the parts and the maintenance and so on and so forth that they need to keep the planes running. So you see, brothers and sisters, these leaders, they need to be fired. That's the reality of the situation, and Allah knows best. So why wouldn't they give it to other developing countries? Because it's not, for them, it's not about that. It's not about Muslims. It's not about Islam. That's important to you, but it doesn't appear to be important to them. Next. All right. Okay, it says here, if Syria recognizes Israel, that's straight up treason. That's enough for a government overthrow. Well, look, I'm not going to get into if this happens, then you overthrow the government and so on and so forth. But I would tell you that wouldn't only be a treason against the Syrian people, but it would be a treason against the Ummah. As you can see, the Ummah is behind the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. When you have countries like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates working hard to circumnavigate the Houthi blockade that they put in the Red Sea, where they were attacking ships going to and from Israel, only to and from Israel, and no other countries. Um, I, I think it's crystal clear that those leaders of those governments are doing one thing, the populations all want something else. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Satay says, please fire them. Oh, I would love to. I would love to. And I would do it in a heartbeat. All righty, next. It says here for Blue Suspect, America controls the Gulf countries' currency as well. We're completely compromised. Well, you see, here's the situation. Particularly if you're looking at the Gulf countries, they have their militaries are comprised of people who are not qualified. What if in these Gulf Arab countries, they have this person is the leader, that's his cousin, that's his brother, that's his brother-in-law, and so on and so forth. It's not a merit-based system. It's a tribal-based system. So therefore, you could have a job as the defense secretary. You don't know nothing about no defense secretary. You might have been in the army. You could fire an RPG or an AK-47, but because your brother, cousin, sister, father, or somebody else is the emir, you got yourself a gig. And that's how it runs in the Middle East. I'm sorry to say, but this is a cancer that has stunted the growth of Muslim armies. In addition to that, when we're talking about the purchase of weapons, buying these weapons is not only about buying weaponry, it's about keeping the ties with the United States of America close. Why? Because if you look at what happened before October 7th, 2023, there was a three-way negotiation between the US, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Basically, what was going to happen is that the Saudis were going to recognize Israel as a sovereign country, and the United States was going to provide non-military nuclear technology to the government of Saudi Arabia, and they were going to sign a defense pact. Once again, you have the Gulf Arab countries not being able to stand on their own 2 feet and not planning to stand on their own 2 feet, so they outsource their security to America. You can't make this stuff up, brothers and sisters. If you were the head of a company and your CEO, you're on the board of directors, he spent billions of dollars on defense spending, but he couldn't defend himself against his grandmother, you're going to fire that guy. But this is what we have in so many of these little Gulf kingdoms. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, last question we've got here. Palestina Viva says, do you consider the Houthis Muslims? I think they're closer to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah out of all Shias. That's a question, to be real with you, to ask a scholar. That's not my field of expertise, so I don't want to get in or out of that, but I can tell you one thing. I appreciate very much so the efforts that the Houthis have made for this ummah, particularly for the Palestinian brothers and sisters that are living under bombs and starvation. They've done more than anybody else in this ummah for the Palestinian cause. That's the reality of the situation, brothers and sisters. They've done more than anybody else. And if you look, since we're talking about the Gulf countries right now, the Gulf countries did nothing. What did they do? Buy some flashlights, a couple of blankets, water purification tablets. What have they actually done? What pressures have they put on the Israelis? None. The Israelis have no fear of them because they know that these are just checkbook militaries. They can threaten the Israelis with anything. So therefore, the Israelis just do what it is that they want to do. And that's the reality of the situation. Okay, guys, look, before you go, I do want to just ask you one more time, please visit our crowdfunding page. That's medina.com/voices of truth. This is where we are documenting the crimes that were committed by the Assad regime throughout their reign. We're giving a voice to people who never ever thought that they would be able to speak out and to tell people their story in hopes that they might benefit. Check it out, medina.com/voices of truth. If you could help us out with $10, $50, $1,000, whatever it is, we would be so happy and gracious to get it. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem for OGN. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.